Welcome back for another episode 2 of Shall I Explain? I'm your host, Nathan, aka Wonders, and today we will be going over part 2 of the Freeze Time remix, or my Freeze Time remix. So the first half was the break, the second half will be the drop. So without further ado, let's get into it. Okay, so first thing on our list to talk about today is the leads. Leads are essentially melodies. So the melody is like whatever is, it's kind of like the main sort of tune that you'll hear at the top, that's on the top of a progressive house track. So all together they sound like this. Nice. So first thing, a lot of the leads that I try to create consist of these sounds, which are orchestral strings, pianos, guitars, and synthesizers. So our first two on the list are pianos. And I think the next two here are plucks, or like, yeah, they're plucks. So I also add plucks. You never really, I guess a good tip is that you never want to make your leads sound too synthy, because then it doesn't, I don't know, it doesn't sound organic in any way. Like you always want to add some sort of organic instruments such as pianos, strings, guitars, and whatnot. You only really need like maybe like a few synths since they're so wide and so thick. So the next is, I think this one's guitar. Let me check. Yeah, so this one's a guitar. Cool. Next, I think this is a synthesizer, so that's more like synth. And I think this one is supposed to be a string, but for some reason my library isn't there, so I'm gonna have to look into that and see why that is. I think these next like few are just saws. Yeah, those are just synths. So all together again, they sound like this. Cool. You get the gist. Next are the chords, the drop chords. Really cool thing about these chords is that they kind of switch up. Or like the first bar will switch up from here, or this part here is different than over here. So if I let you hear, so it's like this. So that's the first one, and then the second one is here. So you kind of hear that cool little difference. I think, like, constantly having chord switches I wouldn't say constantly. It's really up to the artists themselves if they want to do so. But I think sometimes switching it up here and there is cool. So the chords are really simple. They just consist of a piano and a saw, I believe. Yes. So here's the piano. Oh no, what happened? Okay. Right? Then we have our saws. So together. I'm not going to get into mixing or how I mix my sounds right now. I might do that later in like a totally separate series or tutorial. But anyways, let's move on. But yeah, I'll probably keep that in mind for when I'm doing more stuff. So next is our mid bass, right? So yeah, on. Let me turn them on. So it's just 3. So each sound like this. All together. Uh, I think a tip is to keep things simple. You don't really need like 10 of these. I honestly think a few unique sounds will work. So the first one is sounds like that. The next one is more like an acoustic sort of bass, right? And then the next one is just like a really deep boom bass. Cool. Can't forget about that sub bass. For those of you who are wearing headphones when you're listening to this, you'll probably hear the sub bass. But if you're not wearing headphones, you might not hear it, but nonetheless, it's there. Trust me. Next is our arpeggiators or arps. So they actually, as you can hear, there's kind of like a hop or a pause in there. That's just like a cool like little easy design trick that I usually do. I think it. I don't know. It's kind of really hard to explain the effect that it gives, but if I play it with all of these together, if it's loud enough, let me double check. In this case, it kind of goes. I think it goes hand in hand with the percussion. So maybe if I even remember, I'll talk about it a little later. But yeah, so like all these up here is all the melodic instruments or virtual instruments that you hear. Keep it really. Some tips is that you should keep it really simple. You don't need a lot of sounds to make it sound nice and big and nice and fat. A lot of it comes from the mixing, which is kind of intricate. It's more intricate than me just showing like what sounds I used. Um, but yeah, like I said, I'll probably just talk about that in a later video. So next we have is our ambience. Ambience just helps fills up the track. You always want to make sure that your ambience and these sort of samples are in the right key. If they're out of tune, then it'll be pretty noticeable in your track that something does not sound right. So each of these sound like this. So I think back to when I was talking about my art, how it kind of hops. I notice, or now I notice, that I did like the same thing, the same sort of breakup for the ambience here and the up here. So I think it's a, like I said, it's a really cool trick. I can't really explain what kind of effect that it gives, but yeah, I usually do that. I mean, feel free to do it in your own sort of technique, but don't steal everything. Just just take what you're learning here, and then just like create your own. You know what I mean? So yeah. Anyway, so here's the kick. You always want a nice fat punchy kick on your track. Nice fat and punchy. I'll probably get some hate for that. So next we have is our percussion, which is like our rides. Kind of mix them up a little bit. So most of them are up here, and then there's some down here. I'm just turning them on so that way you'll know what to listen for. There you go. Cool, 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 cool. So a really cool trick that, if not some, but all progressive house producers do, is that they'll take the rides like this, and it's the same. It'll be in the same rhythm or same pattern as the chords or melodies. So basically everything that's on the top like this. So I think that's a really cool effect. Kind of helps with energy, I would say. Next we have is just simply our effects. Risers, I always like to put risers in the second half of my track. I'm pretty sure a lot of other people do too. Risers is just, it's all just going up. It's just nice hype energy. It's really some cool stuff. Um, let's see what else is there. So there's these. They're just like there to sort of carry you into the next part of the song. Right. Okay. So I also have these fills. Fills just help fill space. Another cool sounds. These are like snare buildups. So that's really cool. I usually like to put those in all my tracks. I think I've been putting those in my tracks since like ever since I first started. I think it has a nice touch. So now what I'm going to do is I will play all of the drums and crashes and rides and all this good stuff, all the percussion, just so you'll have a sense of what it feels like, not what it feels like, what it sounds like all together. Cool. So that's the first half. That's the first like drop of the song. The second drop is slightly different. I just added like a few things and changed the chords. So one difference is that's now here instead of over here. And then I ended here instead of not putting it in the beginning. I think another cool thing, I have this ride that's rising. Right, so that's really cool. Another thing that I do, I call it a hover thingy. It's really just, it's one note, but it really helps. It kind of really helps tell the difference between the first drop and the second drop. So like, I use this in my other side remix, so let me just play it for you. So that sounds like that, but then on the second half of the drop, it's actually pitching up just to provide more energy and more like rising, more consuming, and to sort of show that the song is ending. And then I have it like sort of fade out a little bit there because the sound just gets really, it can get really overwhelming. So I just fade it out so that way you don't have to deal with that, with all that sine wave noise and whatnot. So, so let me just play for you what I just showed you, and then I'm just gonna play with the drums, and then at the end, I'll show you what I did with the different chord progression, and then we'll end it there. So. Then that's the ending. Cool. So, just like a really cool thing that I do that I sort of that like has inspired me, or like it was done like another song that's from this music producer. His name is Sun, or he goes by Sun. But yeah, at the end of this bar, it's kind of like going up. So again, it kind of goes back to like, it's the end of the song. Just want this like really big grand finale finish. Yeah. So let me just play for you what that sounds like towards the end of the song. And there you have it. So yeah, those are the two drops. I showed you like all the melodic stuff, the ambience, and all the instruments and effects. Yeah, so that's the end of this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure to stay tuned for more Shall I Explain videos of all my tracks, or for whatever tracks I decide to do. If you have any questions or comments in regards to what I just talked about, or just comment about anything, really, it can be like what you have for breakfast or whatnot. Just feel free to leave them in the comments. I'll be more than happy to answer them for you guys. In the meantime, make sure you stay safe out there. This world's getting a little crazy, but we'll pull through with music, of course. So I will catch you guys later on the next episode of Shall I Explain.